If you set up the Midnight MCP server after watching one of our videos, then this one is for you. We are retiring it, not because it failed, but because we built something better. We now have two tools to replace it, and together they cover more than the old server ever did. One answers your question from inside the editor or your editor, irrespective of what client you're using. And then the other writes, validate, and run Midnight code with you. So I'm going to show you both. I'm Idris Olubisi, developer educator at Midnight Foundation. Let's start with Kapa. And here is the thing, you've probably already used it without knowing. So if you head over to our documentation site, where we have, if you head over to docs.midnight.network, and then on the landing page, you see something called the AI search. When you click on that, you click on use MCP, and then you see different options. So irrespective of the client you're using, all you need to do is to select the option and follow the instruction. In our case, I'll be showcasing how to add it to your Claude Code. Either you're using your Claude Code directly from your desktop or you have the terminal set up already. So I'm going to click on this, and then it says copy, paste to terminal. And I'm going to head over to my Claude desktop, or if you have your Claude terminal, and you can just paste in the command. This says Claude MCP add with the transport indicating the protocol, and then pointing to with the name Midnight Docs, which then points to the URL midnight.mcp.kappa AI. However, I already pasted this and then installed the Kapa MCP already. So if you are just doing this for the first time, it is going to ask a couple of permissions that you need to accept. And then after that, it would install it for you properly. And that's it. That's how to simply install Kapa. It answers from a created index, the official documentation, core repositories like Ledger, Midnight.js, the Node repo, and standalone materials like the white paper. That same knowledge base is now exposed over MCP, which means your editor can query it directly. So you can ask your AI assistant, how does generation work, how to structure your witness, what ledger type does, and also answer questions you might have that is currently grounded in the documentation where you don't have to start looking for it manually, right? So now that we have it set up, one thing I want us to try out together is to test it real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a simple question. How does generation work, and what happens when I spend? So then I click enter. So this is going to send a request, but because we already have Midnight Kapa MCP installed, so first it's going to find the right tool. And as you can see, it indicates that it's currently using the Kapa Midnight, and it then search through the knowledge base using the true source, and then we have results. This is just a practical example, a very simple one that you can take a look at. And you can also experiment it with some other details or anything you could think of you want to know about Midnight and how Midnight works, right? So that's the knowing side. Now let's go over to the other side where you get things done, which I refer to as the doing side. And that is where Midnight Expert comes in. Midnight Expert is a marketplace of Claude Code plugins, where this is where generation, validation, and tooling features of the old server now live with a broader coverage. We have over 15 plus plugins. It also has over 100 skills, more than a dozen agents, a couple of hundreds reference documents, compact contracts, TypeScript SDK, wallet operation, proof server infrastructure, error catalogs, and all of these things to help you build, compile, verify any of your contracts. And also beyond contract, it does other SDK actions, and you can also verify implementation directly from your terminal. How do you install? Head over to midnightnetwork.experts. You would see, you can learn more about how to install, what exactly is available, all of the plugins available. If you do want to install the plugins one after the other, you also see the command there. And if you want to install directly the entire midnightnetwork.experts, you have two options. You can either just run this on your terminal, or if you want to install individual plugin or you want to install it directly using the Claude command, then you can copy this. So same way we did for the Kapa MCP, you can come back here and then paste it in here, right? It's going to request a couple of permissions again, accept them, and then you have it installed. I already have mine installed, so I'm not going to go over that process again. Now, the next thing we want to do is to test it out, right? And I'm going to do that with a very simple example where I'm going to tell it to write a compact contract, or let me say it should write a counter compact contract and verify the result. This could be anything, but this is a very simple example just to showcase how this works under the hood. As you can see, it's currently writing the contract. It's going to build it. It's going to verify installation and then return the full code to us. This is not limited to things like this. You can have it plugging into your existing contract and tell it to verify a couple of details and update the implementation. It also tells you some security best practices and all of these things. So you have different action you can leverage. As indicated in the docs here, if you scroll back to Midnight Network.experts, you see that we have different plugins for different things. The Midnight Experts itself, the compact example, we have a lot of them. The Midnight Verify is one of my interesting one, the one I really enjoy. Because if you have an implementation and you're trying to either verify if the implementation works, or you just want to start something from scratch and you started already, but you are not sure, or you are currently debugging, any of these things, you can tell it to verify a particular implementation. And the good thing is that it could also verify if you have it hosted on GitHub, just paste in the URL and it's going to do that verification for you. So let me go back to the example and see if this is done. This should be pretty fast because my expectation is that the counter compact contract is a very simple compact contract, but you could have a very robust or a very complicated contract and it's going to do the same for you. So as you can see, we have the contract generated and that's what we have. And the interesting part beyond just generating contract is that it's going to compile it, it's going to verify it works, there's no assumption, and also it's going to compile and then return the result to you. So that's the whole point, right? Compact and the Midnight SDK usually change really fast. Things like Circuit, Browser DApp, wallet integration, there's a plugin covering all of these things directly. So just having it installed would help you achieve building a privacy preserving app on Midnight even faster. So which one do you choose? It's a very simple rule, right? Most developers, we encourage you all to run both of them directly on your local machine. So feel free to connect it to any of your AI assistants. Just remember that Kappa is for knowing you have a question, you want to understand documentation, or a particular docs about a function without leaving your editor. All of these things, Kappa Midnight MCP can handle it for you. And probably you also want to learn about mechanisms, how some things work, and also cross-check what the docs tells you about that particular implementation. All of these things, Kappa Midnight MCP can handle it for you. And then the other end is the Midnight Expert, which is for generating contracts, scaffolding a DApp, verify it to make sure it confirms, decode an error in case it encounter any, runs a review for an existing contract, everything inside your Claude Code or any of your AI assistant where you could install this particular plugin. So just from our example, Kappa tells you how Dust works. The Midnight Expert helps you to write the contract that uses it and then checks that it's compiled. So one is doing the exact job, right? So we encourage all developers to install both and get started quickly. Again, if you don't have Claude Code installed, you can visit thecloud.com, check for Claude Code, make sure you have it installed. There's a quick start where you can install directly on your Mac through Windows PowerShell or Windows CMD. You can follow the guide directly on the website. But then, if you have never installed the old MCP, that's okay. It's very simple. Just go ahead and follow the step-by-step we just went through. And then you would install everything you need, including all of the Midnight Experts plugins and also the Kappa Midnight MCP. So if you want to feel the difference, you can try out a couple of prompts, docs, proof server error you're getting, all of these things, paste it in directly and watch it debug things for you in real time. And of course, you can also use it as a knowledge base for you to learn. As it's working on so many, any of this implementation, you can also do things like fact check. You can check against the status code. You can check for error codes. You can do all of these things because these plugins are already available for you out of the box after installation. So the Midnight MCP is already offline, so you might be having errors already. All you just need to do is to remove it from your config file and follow what we just did right now to install the Kappa MCP and also the Midnight Expert plugin. The replacement is already live today. As you can see, Kappa keeps your assistant answering from the current docs instead of guessing. And then Midnight Expert gives your Claude Code or any of your clients the skill to run write, validate, and run, then debug your midnight code in real time. Uh, Knowing and doing both of them, you need them. I'm going to link in the description the migration guide and also the Kapa MCP URL and the Midnight Experts marketplace. So you can set them up, try different prompts. Tell me in the comments what you are currently building or what you are currently working on or what you want me to cover next. See you next time. Bye.